Once we found out that news on Saturday, you thought the Bears had a really good chance. And even while you're watching the game and watching the Bears dominate that first quarter, where they were able to march down the field at will and took up most of the first quarter after they received the ball. Field goal. This thing starts to slip away. And unfortunately, when they didn't get the turnovers they needed, we saw it come down to one quarterback, I think, putting the team on his back a bit and understanding when he needed to defer to Derrick Henry. And then we saw another quarterback who it's the evaluation time is starting to get more and more critical for Caleb Williams. This is game number 24 that he just had. And unfortunately, he didn't outplay Tyler Huntley, the Ravens' backup. And that is an issue today.
Just to see Caleb Williams, and I was looking at the first half stats. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I knew this game was not going to be a Bears win after they settled for that second field goal. I was like, yeah, this isn't going to get it done.
6-0, you're already out?
Yeah, 6-0. I was like, this isn't going to get it down the road. And here's why. Because I was like, guess what? The Ravens haven't even had a chance to do anything. They had the 3-and-out, and the Bears sandwiched two big drives around that. They were killing them in total yardage after one quarter of play. But I was like, they haven't even really dealt with Derrick Henry yet. And I don't even know about Tyler Huntley and what he's going to do. But I do know this. When the first half ended and I saw that Huntley was 11 for 12 for 110 yards and that Caleb Williams was 12 of 17 for $114 with no touchdowns, I was like, yeah, this feels like a game where you can't go on the road and play like this and waste early opportunities. And it was more of the same, let's be honest, after the first half ended.
I changed my pick, guys. Because last week, on the Take the North podcast with WEEKDAY, who will be on with us at 1 o'clock today.
Dan Weeder,
that's correct. I picked the Baltimore Ravens to win the game because in my head, Lamar Jackson was going to play. As I was on our pregame show yesterday with Mully, Olin, and Patrick Manley, they asked me, which they don't usually do. They don't usually ask for my pick during that because they have their own big rollout of their picks. Mully just happened to ask me, and I said in real time, now that we know that Tyler Huntley is playing in this game, I'm going to go ahead and change my pick to the Bears winning. But the actual reason, I use Huntley as an excuse to pick the Bears because guess what I felt really good about going into this game? I felt really good about Caleb Williams going into this game, and that's because of the horrible defensive statistics and the horrible defensive play of the Baltimore Ravens this year, even if you believe, which I do, that eventually Baltimore is going to get their acts together. Their acts are still not together. That still wasn't a dominant defense yesterday. That still wasn't a dominant offense yesterday. The Bears yesterday lost to a mediocre team, and guess what? Caleb Williams did a bad job of taking advantage of a bad Baltimore defense, and there are many things that we will talk about throughout these first couple of segments in regards to that.
When I try to check my opinion or at least suss it through, which is not very often, we shoot from the hip a lot. But when I'm trying to figure out how I feel about something, sometimes I will blind item a thing. You know, like if you say quarterback A threw for 285 yards and only got sacked one time, you're like, oh, that's good. Quarterback B threw for 186 and one touchdown. You know, you're thinking, oh, well, yards and given the situations each time, that sounds like quarterback A who threw for more yards is probably in a better spot in the modern NFL. Quarterback A was Caleb Williams with 285 yards. He did get sacked only once, which if you told me that without all the other facts, I would have said, well, then the Bears have a really good chance of winning that game. But unfortunately, it's just like what we talked about. There's a lot of people who can be all pro between the 20s in the NFL. It's what happens when you get into the red zone. Other part about this is head coach told you what he wanted to see. Head coach didn't see it. Yeah, he said, we want to score more touchdowns inside the red zone. We want to have fewer penalties. You did not have fewer penalties. You do not pass go. You did not collect $200. You had 11 Bears penalties for 79 yards. And unfortunately, 30 of them were via intentional grounding. I understand one of them. You can parse it through. We will in the next segment regarding a hot read. But at the end of the day, I also expect my quarterback, who is the one to read the field. And, you know, that's part of this, too. I was very patient. I continue to be patient with him. I'm not clamoring for a backup. But the more sample size we get, we knew that this was going to be evaluation time. This is embarking on a critical stretch for him, the month of November, when you consider how this is supposed to go for the Bears offense and Ben Johnson saying what this was going to look like in December versus September. And unfortunately, a game like what we just saw was a setback when it comes to that evaluation.
I look at this, And first through the big umbrella of this season, Ben Johnson's first as a head coach and Caleb Williams second, but first in a new offense. And I understand, like thinking about it, I understand that, hey, the back half of the season should look different and better than the first half of the season. Well, we're now 7 games in, so we're knocking on the door of back half of the season. And Caleb Williams, while he is not where I thought he might be at this particular moment, I understand that the measuring stick portion of the schedule is coming up very soon where we do expect him to be better. And the problem is, even though growth is not linear, to have 2 back-to-back bad games in the fashion that he has, and to hear some of the things being said about why things did not go the way of the Bears yesterday, it's highly concerning. I also am not clamoring for some backup quarterback to come in because I understand it takes time to learn Ben Johnson's system. But I will tell you this.
Some backup quarterback? Why do you say it so ambiguously?
Because there was a guy named Cooper Rush who was the backup for the Baltimore Ravens who got skipped by Tyler Snoop Huntley. That did just happen, right?
Yeah.
And
Snoop.
so I understand it could be anybody, but I know who it would be, obviously.
Tyler Huntley, I mean, he ran RPOs well yesterday. You know, he was able to dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge enough to make that Ravens offense really gain momentum.
He had a 29-yard killer run
that
while he
so
was
killer.
at it.
I was looking.
That's the point,
There's
though.
no one even close to him as he starts that run.
Not even close. Where's it going to end is what I was thinking.
Yes.
Where does this stop, man?
I can only see to the edge of the screen, and the whole time, the first 10 yards he's running, I'm like, is anyone going to tackle him?
Yeah. That was not supposed to happen. You were supposed to be without that guy.
And listen, like when we talked about, for example, the way the Ravens creatively accounted for Lamar Jackson by designating, they implied that their practice designation on Friday, that he was a full participant, meaning we all thought he was going to play. Then they record scratch it on Saturday and they're like, he was a full participant with the scout team. And whoever said lies by omission, I think put it really well. That's what it was. The NFL is probably going to do something about it just based on what we've heard Mike Florio and others say. But either way, at that point, you're thinking to yourself, even knowing that the Bears had their share of injuries, you know, we'll get to the Kyler Gordon IR designation, which was massively surprising on Saturday later in our show. But for the rest of it, you're thinking they had a chance. And especially after that first drive, you're thinking this is a team that can go ahead and step on a 1-5 team's throats. You're saying to yourself, finish him like we do on Mortal Kombat, for example. And that's what you wanted to see. This Bears team got an opportunity with a 1-5 team quarterbacked by Tyler Huntley, knowing that it was going to be do or die for them. And they controlled most of the first half of the game. And to not put them away when they should have is a real tragedy here for this team.
You talk about the Bears controlling the first
Correct.
half. Yeah, got you.
The road. You're on the road. When you're on the road, you can't look. Well, I wouldn't call it a gift horse in the mouth because they earned those drives that led to points, that led to field goals. Ben Johnson had me thinking, all right, Ben, I see you cooking it up. Caleb's hitting this guy and that guy, and it was a good mix of both the run, the pass, DeAndre Swift, Kyle Monunga out here running the ball early in the game.
How we doing?
And so I'm thinking we're good. But I'm telling you, as soon as they got to the red zone, and that to me, that was the record scratch. It was like, oh, we're here again. That means it's time for Carlos Santos to get ready. A whole lot of that.
Your Monunga, who you were just praising then, at the end of that drive, old Monunga loses a couple yards. And Leila, you were talking about the lack of sacks. Well, guess what? Mike Green got to Caleb Williams, and that's what killed. They were inside. They were at the 3-yard line. The 3-yard line! And they could not get into the end zone because they got sloppy at the end. And then on the second drive, same thing, into the red zone. And they fail on a 3rd and 7 after having hit a pretty nice third down previously in that drive. But yeah, those drives were killers. And I don't even have to talk about what I wrote down on my piece of paper as the death drive. The Bears' death drive in the fourth quarter when they're up 16-13, and there is of all people, old Joe Tooney with a false start. He gets a falsie. Caleb gets intercepted by Nate Wiggins. Baltimore turns that into a touchdown. Easy touchdown, by the way, which really pissed me off, to Charlie Kohler. Like, that couldn't have been more wide. Talk about the defense not picking up the offense in that spot. Makes it 23-13. And maybe the defense was disenchanted because the Bears had just had, before all that Bears death drive occurred, the Bears had just gotten the 3-yard touchdown out of DeAndre Swift on an 83-yard drive. The defense comes up with a big stop before the interception where Baltimore was trying desperately to draw the Bears off sides, and Lamar Jackson is on the sideline literally laughing at what was going on. So that whole part of the game, all of what I just mentioned, that was your death drive and the preamble that led up to it.
Our segment with Rahimi, Harris and Grote talking about the Bears loss. We want to know what you think too. Is brought to you by almostfreeteeth.com. Save on dental implants today. You can text us and call us. We want your calls at 1045, also 1245, 312-644-6767. Our Twitch mob is going off. Twitch.tv/Chicago670 The Score. That, to me, you're right. That was it. When they were within one score, a field goal at that, it's 16-13. And what happens? That interception, unfortunately, is something that we've seen before. Yeah, and that's the hardest part, too, is people are going to make the same mistakes. And I understand that. But at that point, there were 2 intentional groundings as well. And your coach talked about penalties being drive killers for this team. Mm-hmm. Those intentional groundings go for a massive amount of yards. Then it's just what you said. You know, it was the Tooney false start, which was incredibly rare. And then the forcing to roam over the middle in double coverage. That's something that you shouldn't be doing in game number 24, especially when you've had so many signs that it's not working. Stop trying to make fetch happen. Stop trying to throw to a guy in double coverage like that, especially over the middle. He has problems throwing the ball over the middle, does Caleb Williams. That has been an issue. And I don't know if it's because Theo Benedict is getting beat a lot on the blocks on the left side, where that's something that I think they're trying to take it away from him. But you're just not, you had to be self-aware here. You're not to the point where you can make those throws yet. You hadn't been able to. There's only one shot that was taken downfield. That was big. That was to Devin Duvernay.
That's not the guy you want to see.
How about Devin Duvernay in the game at the end of the game too?
Yeah,
I mean,
I was
in closing
confused.
time, you know, when you're trying to make things happen.
Small thing, but weird. I mean,
Yes,
the game
but
was
that's
over.
my
The Bears weren't going to
point.
come back. But what was that?
And I understand that Rome's going to get most of the targets, and that's planned, and Caleb knows that's going to be his guy for a long time. Rome gets 10 targets. DJ Moore gets 7, 73 yards for DJ, but we know most of that was on that 40-plus yarder that he got late in the game. But I'm still wondering in all this, you know, where's DJ Moore, your guy who can make something happen in traffic? Like, they were so confident about the game plan to DJ, if you recall. There was a 3rd down play where they passed to him even with the line of scrimmage, and he was able to convert, 8 or 9 yards on that play into a 1st down. That's a good indication of what you can see. You get clues during the game, and that should help you with your read progressions when it comes to being able to do stuff at the end.
I also wanted to see more of Colston Loveland. Am I the only one that was hankering for some more
No.
Colston Loveland?
I always want to see more Colston
That's
Loveland.
that you want to see more out of the tight ends in general. They missed Cole Kmet yesterday.
And so when you see Olamide Zaccheaus, like, I don't have a problem with the fact that Caleb looks at him as kind of a safety blanket. 7 for 7. He's targeted 7 times. He comes up with 7 catches. But if you're only going to get 33 yards on the 7 completions, are you really doing much of anything? That's less than 5 yards per attempt. And 5 yards per catch. I want to see more of what I saw early in those first 2 drives where he was clearly getting 10-plus yards on these catches.
Absolutely. 6-3 with a good point. Duvernay in because of the injury to Burden, too.
Oh, okay.
And OZ.
Good call. Good
but
call.
the injury to Burden was acknowledged after the game. That was something that we didn't necessarily see. Nobody said that Tooney was... it wasn't about being outside 8-1-5. They just flagged him for a false start. Here's the other thing, too. You know this because you watch basketball. You're not going to get the calls. Like, once you've decided to become the most penalized team in the National Football League and you don't show signs of stopping, guess what? You're not going to get the benefit of the doubt from the referees. Like, that translates from sport to sport.